Welcome to a WalterFootball.com fantasy football mock draft. This is a PPR mock draft that I'm doing with Jacob Camenker. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm locked in with the number 2 pick in this mock, and I just realized I'm pretty sure I was at the number 2 slot last time we did a draft too, but I don't think it was PPR. So I think we're gonna get a little bit of a different look at what I'm trying to do here this time, at least hopefully.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm the number 6 spot, and hopefully, unlike last week, I managed to stay in this draft room. For those of you who saw, or those of you who didn't see last week's mock draft, I pressed I had some issues with the search button, and I pressed backspace, and I think backspace took me to the previous page, and I couldn't get back in. So I'm going to try to avoid the backspace button this week. So hopefully that goes well. Before we begin, which is like in 30 seconds, I should say please hit subscribe on YouTube, or hit the notification button and hit the like button. That would help us out a lot. So you're drafting number 2. What are you hoping for here?
I am hoping to get Saquon Barkley here. I like Christian McCaffrey too, especially in PPR, but I have a feeling McCaffrey's going to be gone with the first pick. And I also think he'll regress a little bit as a receiver, just because we don't know how Joe Brady's offense is going to value receiving-based running backs. Scott Turner's offense really emphasized McCaffrey's abilities in that area. So I'd be happy to get him, but I think Barkley has a little bit more upside, and you can't go wrong with either of them. But I'm hoping Barkley's on the board because he has a better offensive line.
Yeah, I would take Barkley as well, but like you said, you can't go wrong with either. Looks like there's some lag, and yeah, you're not getting Barkley. So I mean, McCaffrey is definitely not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, no, you can't complain with either of those two guys. I mean, but my one concern with McCaffrey is I don't think that he's on a very good team, but we see running backs produce on bad teams all the time. I mean, McCaffrey did well last year with Kyle Allen and Will Grier as his primary quarterback. So Teddy Bridgewater should be an upgrade over that. So they'll find a way to use him and get him points in fantasy.
I almost forgot Will Grier started a few games. That was so bad. I've been rewatching the 2019 season. I'm not up to the Will Grier starts yet, though. I just watched I think it was the last Panthers game I watched was the one where they blew the lead against the Redskins at home somehow. They were up 14-0, and they managed to lose just inexplicably. So I'm up soon. It's a rough spot, so I wanted to draft 6th on purpose because I don't like the middle of the draft. I'd rather draft where you are, or I'd rather draft at the end. I don't like the middle at all, and it looks like G might miss his pick, unfortunately. We got a full room. I don't know why he just missed his pick, or maybe he just entered it as Josh Jacobs. So I've been drafting running back. But Michael Thomas, for me, is by far the best player on the board. So I'm going to try a mock draft where I take Michael Thomas, and I think I would do this in real life. Like, Michael Thomas is just so good, especially in PPR where he catches like so many passes. So I'm going to see how this mock draft unfolds with going receiver first.
Yeah, and I don't think you're in position to really take a running back because you could go Dalvin Cook, but he's at such a huge risk injury-wise, and the fact that he might hold out. I just don't trust Cook at all. So I think you're right to go with Thomas, especially in PPR. He's kind of the safe choice no matter what he's going to produce. And you can at least rely on him week in and week out. You may have to scrounge a bit for running backs in the later rounds, but at least you have one dynamic receiver. Yeah,
well, I'm curious to see what happens in the second or third rounds. Like, I'm going to try to get good running backs there. Hopefully that happens.
Maybe I'm just it's wishful thinking for me, and I won't be able to get a good running back in the third round. If not, then I'll just go receiver, and like you said, I'll scramble to get a running back. But I really want to see what happens and how this unfolds, and I think that's like one of the reasons why it's important to do fantasy mock drafts is to kind of like get an idea of what will happen in different scenarios in different spots. Yeah, absolutely. And I learned early on in this fantasy mock draft season not to take a receiver early on and then take a quarterback or a non-running back position. Basically, you need running backs in the first 3 rounds. But I will be interested to see if your team shakes out okay, because I think the middle of the 3rd round is when like those top tier running back options really dry up. But I think you're still in position to land 2 good starters and be set at the running back position. So I'll be interested to see if you can
manage to have a good team there with all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd say I'd hope so if this were a real draft, but it's not a real draft. So I actually hope I get stuck on running backs in the third round and I have to scramble. Kind of like I want to see how that goes, like that scenario unfolds. So hopefully the other people drafting with us, just help me out there and just take all the running backs and I'm just left with no running backs in the third round. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I should get one good running back in the second round for sure, though.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be someone on the board at that point. We'll talk more about the options when we get there because I don't want to tip my hand as to what I'm hoping you won't take and will fall to me. But
What do you think about this first round so far? There are like a couple picks that stand out to me. It's just not very good. The DeAndre Hopkins, I think with Kyler Murray running more, I don't think he's a first round receiver. I think he's like a second rounder. Dalvin Cook, I know. I imagine you don't like that one either, right?
Yeah, I'm not big on Dalvin Cook in the first round. Like, I don't hate him at like the 9 to 12 spot. But I'm just super low on him because I think he's just such a massive risk at this point in time. Kenyon Drake just came off the board too, which is earlier than I thought. I was hoping he'd get to my second round pick actually. But given that the name of the person drafting 12th is Cardinal Crazy, it would not surprise me if they were targeting Drake and Hopkins on the turn there, which wouldn't be a terrible strategy. But yeah, I also Derrick Henry at 7 in a PPR mock. I don't love it, especially since he had 400 touches last year. But I also understand why that would happen because there are so few quality running backs to target this year. But I probably would take Joe Mixon over him.
Yeah, I think so too. Not a horrible pick. Like I think Cook is the worst pick by far in the first round. Like Kenny Drake's okay there. I think should probably go in the middle of the second, but I think that's fine. I do like this Miles Sanders pick though. I feel like he should go where Dalvin Cook went.
Yeah, I like the Miles Sanders pick too. I like him paired with Hopkins. Like, if you swapped where the Hopkins pick and where the Sanders pick is, I think we'd be saying like that's a really strong draft from the 10 spot. So I think that's a good strategy. And I like Hopkins a lot too. I think I agree with you. I don't know if he's going to have like in PPR the number of receptions that he needs to have to be a first round receiver. I think I maybe even prefer Devontae Adams over him just because Rodgers doesn't have any weapons outside of him and will constantly target him.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'm up in a couple of picks here, so doesn't look like my request was heard. Like people have been taking receivers and even in tight end, which I think is a big mistake in the second round. I think tight ends are so replaceable. I was looking at the average draft position for tight ends taken this year, and there's some great values late in the draft, like Tyler Higbee. Blake Jarwin is currently undrafted in ADP, and I think that's a steal. Like he's going to be Dallas's primary tight end, and I could see him catching like 8 touchdowns this year or so, and like getting him in the final rounds, like I think it's a steal. So like I wouldn't go with tight end at all in the second round.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. I don't think I've taken a tight end beyond like the 10th round in any mock I've done because I hate taking tight ends early. I always find a good one late. I'll probably eventually try the strategy of taking one early, but probably not this time around since Kelsey's off the board.
Yeah, I'm taking Austin Eckler here. I'm not a big fan of his in standard leagues. I don't know why I have to click twice. I'm not a big fan of his in standard leagues, but PPR, he's going to catch so many passes this year, especially with Melvin Gordon gone. Melvin Gordon's the other player I would have considered here, as well as Aaron Jones. So plenty of good options here in the middle of the second round for a running back. I just think in PPR, Eckler's upside is just through the roof. Like he's just such a good pass catcher. And I think once Justin Herbert takes over as the quarterback for the Chargers, he's going to rely a lot on his running back to catch passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead right on that. And we've also seen Eckler has the ability to split out and function as a slot receiver. So even if Justin Jackson comes on and takes some carries away from him, he's still going to be on the field and serving as a receiving option. So I think that's a pretty safe pick for you there.
Yeah, you're up now.
Oh, I am. Oh, this is super laggy today. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go with another running back. The top rated guy on my board is Aaron Jones. I think this is kind of a steal to get him at this point. I know he's not the biggest pass catcher out of the backfield, which is why he falls a bit in PPR. It is not letting me select him. There it is. Okay. But Williams will take some receptions from him, but I think at the end of the second round, Aaron Jones is a steal, and I compare him with McCaffrey and be pretty set at running back now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great pick. I wouldn't have been upset if I got him at 207. So I like that a lot. And you're about to be up again, like right now.
Okay. So I think this time I'll take a receiver. I know I've been going 3 running backs quite a lot as well. But I like the Bucs upside this year. I think Mike Evans with Tom Brady is going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. So I'm going to invest in him as my top receiver, getting him in the 3rd round. I know he may not be a big-time reception threat, but he is super consistent, always gets yardage and touchdowns, and should be better with Brady at the helm.
I asked Kenny this last week. I want to hear your opinion. Chris Godwin's going earlier than Mike Evans in every single fantasy draft we've done so far. What are your thoughts on that? I think that's wrong. Like, do you agree?
I agree. I get that they're kind of interchangeable and probably should be taken close to each other, but Evans has such proven production at the NFL level, and Godwin does too, don't get me wrong. But I think Evans has like 5 straight seasons, I think, of over 1,000 yards and maybe 10 touchdowns in a season. I can't remember. I have to look it up, but he's been consistent ever since he got into the league, and he should only be better with Tom Brady throwing to him. I know Brady likes to spread it around a little bit more, but yeah, so Evans has played 6 NFL seasons, in all of them has at least 1,000 receiving yards, and he has 48 total touchdowns during his career. So I think it's a no-brainer to take him.
Yeah. So I'm up now again, and there are 2 good running backs here that I like. There's Devin Singletary, and there's Le'Veon Bell, and I have Singletary a little bit higher. Singletary taken. Yeah, here he is. Yeah, I love Singletary this year. I think he has amazing upside. Buffalo's offense is going to be better with Stephon Diggs there. Fewer people in the box, so I think Singletary should do very well. And I'm very happy to get him at 306. Like I said, when I took Michael Thomas, I wasn't sure I was going to get a good running back in the middle of the 3rd round, and I did. So if this were real life, this were a real draft, I'd be thrilled right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've had a pretty strong draft so far, and being able to get them is really nice. I want to just mention, it was mentioned in the chat, Team 7's pick requests have timed out, and the lag has basically kicked him out. So that explains why it's gone Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, George Kittle. So it's just following the rankings there. So we may see some more strange picks from Team 7. No problem if you're listening to this Team 7. We understand lag is the worst.
Yeah, it's been laggy today. Not sure why. Hopefully they get that issue fixed. It's usually pretty good. But yeah, the Team 7 looks like the weakest right now. But it's considering it's computer drafted, I can understand why. So I think so far this round, except for Team 7's picks, I can't find any bad picks. I don't like the Mahomes selection too much, but I don't hate it as much as Lamar Jackson in the 3rd round. In the 2nd round, I think Mahomes in the 3rd round is okay. I'm not a huge fan, but I can at least understand it.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Todd Gurley in the early 3rd round. I thought there were better running backs available than him. I just think that he's such a risk because of his knees, and I don't particularly think he's a great pass catcher out of the backfield at least for Atlanta, because they have such dynamic receiving weapons. So I would have gone in a different direction there. But again, the running back depth this year isn't that great, so I can understand why the pick was made.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I would have considered him at 306. I would have taken Singletary and Bell over him, but if both guys are gone, as well as Chris Carson, I think he would have been someone I'd consider. So I don't hate the pick at all. I think all the other picks are solid. I'm not a big David Johnson guy, but considering the status of the running backs this year, I can get it. Le'Veon Bell at the end of the 3rd round, that is a massive steal. Like, absolutely, like, that was a great pick.
Yeah, I love that pick. I actually was considering Le'Veon Bell when I took Mike Evans. If I didn't want to see what would happen if I was going to take two running backs and a receiver, I may have gone with Bell instead, just to strengthen the running back core even more. So Cardinal Crazy got a great value there. And Kenyon Drake and Le'Veon Bell as backs looks pretty solid based off of how Drake finished last year and how Bell should do with a better offensive line.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. If only he went receiver at 201 like Tyreek Hill or Julio Jones. Otherwise, I like his team a lot. And I like his team even more now. Like, I think Allen Robinson's a very good pick. He was the third best player available on my board. So I definitely thumbs up for that one. So far so good. I feel like with these picks, except for Team 7, but that's understandable.
Yeah, and I think the lag, it might be affecting some other picks too. Just, sometimes it took me 7 tries to take Aaron Jones. So, if there's a bad pick out there, it might be related more to that. But it looks like you're on the clock again.
Yeah, I have to cross out some people that one pretty quickly. So Cooper Kupp went. I'm not a big fan of Cooper Kupp. I think Robert Woods is the receiver you want. So I have a choice here between Kareem Hunt and Cortland Sutton. I've been all over Sutton this year. Actually wrote something for Fantasy Pros today. They said which player outside of the consensus top 30 would you want on all your teams? And I said I'd want Cortland Sutton. I just think he's going to have a huge year. He had a big year last year in the second season, despite playing with Joe Flacco and Brandon Allen for most of the year. And I feel like with getting more chemistry with Drew Lock will help a lot. And Denver's offense as a whole should be better. There's Jerry Jeudy's there, so he's going to take attention away. So I think Sutton's going to have a big year. So I had a choice here between Sutton and there's another running back I like a lot, and I considered him. But given that every single team in the 1 to 5 range took 2 running backs, I think there's a chance that this running back will fall back to me. I don't know, maybe not, but I think there's more of a chance that this running back will rather than the receiver.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to take that running back right now. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but so I'm going to take Darius Geis from Washington as my third running back. Was that the guy you were looking at?
No, but he is the second best running back available. So I think I would have. There we go. Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt went. Obviously he's not the starter in Cleveland, but he catches a ton of passes, and the upside's there. If Chubb goes down, Kareem Hunt could be a top 3, top 4 fantasy player overall.
Yeah, I definitely could see that happening. I like that. I like that pick too. I'll explain why I went with Geis once I pick Robert Woods here. Sorry, I'm stealing guys you like, but they were on my board, I swear. So I went with Geis because Scott Turner, who's the new Redskins coordinator, has had a running back lead the league in targets, I believe, in each of the last 3 seasons. So I think someone in Washington is going to get a lot of targets. It could be Darius Geis, it could be someone else, but I think it's not going to be Adrian Peterson. He's not much of a pass catcher. So I like Geis for that reason. He's a bit of an injury concern, but as my third running back, I'm willing to take that on for sure.
That's a great point. I think that might make me move up Darius Geis in my rankings. So I like Darius Geis for sure. You love his talent. The only question is his injuries. He hasn't been able to stay healthy yet, but I don't think that makes it a guarantee that he's going to be injured. I think I pointed this example out a lot. Fred Taylor used to be known as Fragile Fred Taylor, and then he had a long run where he didn't get injured at all. So I think he could maybe stay healthy. So I'm up on the clock again, and I'm going to take DeAndre Swift. He's my third running back. I don't want to get trapped with only 2 running backs I like, and I love DeAndre Swift in the trying to click draft player. He's my favorite running back in the 2020 NFL draft. I just think he's just a supreme talent, and I think he should be able to take over the starting job.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. I think it's one that has upside, and we've seen Kerryon Johnson's been on the team for a couple of years. He's had injury issues, and he hasn't been great out there. So Matt Patricia may want to give Swift more of a chance. And, if Matthew Stafford's not 100%, at least to start the year, they may rely more heavily on the running game. So there may be opportunities for both Johnson and Swift. So I think I like that pick because I think he has a ton of upside. You could start Eckler and Singletary at least early in the year, and then if Swift comes on, then you can plug him into the lineup.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like we're closing out round 5 soon. What are your impressions about round 5 so far? Ignoring the marketing room pick for Team 7.
Yeah, I think the quarterbacks are going a little bit too early for my liking, especially in PPR. Like, I love both Russell Wilson and I like Kyler Murray too, but there are still too many contributors at running back and receiver to get a running back at this point, at least in my opinion, because you can stream quarterbacks until you find one you like, or you could stream them all season and usually find success. So I think those guys have really high floors, but how high is their ceiling compared to like guys you can get as undrafted free agents? That's the big question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, especially PPR, where receivers are way more important than they are in standard, and also pass catching running backs. I've used this example many times. I won a league last year playing Eli Manning in 2 playoff games. So if you can do that and win, you can win with any quarterback as long as they have a good matchup. And he had 2 good matchups. So I'm definitely a big fan of playing quarterbacks, rotating them throughout the season, rather than drafting them early. Now, like if like the example you said, like maybe you find someone you like. So if you draft someone late and they turn out to be a stud, like I guess Deshaun Watson a few years ago in his rookie year, or maybe his second year, I don't know where he was drafted, but he was drafted like sort of late, and then he just turned into a stud, and then you just keep him. So that happens as well. That I find that happens to me with defenses too. Like last year, I picked up the 49ers late in drafts because I thought they could turn over Jameis Winston a lot, and then it turned out that the 49ers had the best defense in the NFL. So I just kept the 49ers defense for most of the year. I think that applies to quarterbacks as well.
Definitely. And it looks like you're on the clock again.
I am on the clock. So Devontae Parker was someone I was going to consider. He was the top receiver available for me. So at the pivots. So I'm going to go. I like AJ Green. We haven't seen him play in so long, but he has a good quarterback now for I guess the first time in his career. Like Andy Dalton's always just mediocre. And obviously what they had last year with Ryan Finley, he was a disaster. AJ Green, he's been out for so long. I think he could be hungry to come back. So I think I would have taken Parker there if he happened to be available, but I'm definitely not upset with Green.
Yeah, I like Green in the 6th round. I actually did that last year. And Green didn't play. So I have bad memories of that, but I think he could definitely pan out this year because he had a full year to get healthy. I'm on the clock again. I'm going to go with another receiver probably because I don't really like any of the running backs on the board. So I'll take more later. I'm going to go with a young receiver whose quarterback is possibly going to be an MVP candidate. He came on last year as a rookie. So I'm going to go Darius Slayton. I just think he has so much upside, and I already have like 2 kind of safe players in Mike Evans and Robert Woods, so I'm willing to swing for the fences for my 3rd receiver. We'll see if Slayton can turn into anything. I think he has a chance. I don't know if he's necessarily great in PPR formats, but I think if he becomes Daniel Jones's favorite receiver, he could really emerge in that realm.
Well, there's someone. Would you take an Alexander Madison here because he just went? And you're up anyway.
Yeah, I would have considered Alexander Madison, but frankly, I forgot about him because I'm so not focused on running backs at the moment. I'm also going to I'm going to do something stupid, and I'm going to take Deebo Samuel here in the 7th round.
It's not stupid because I would have taken him.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I think he might miss the first 6 games of the season. He might be on the PUP list, but, he's my 4th receiver, and if he starts the season, he could be great. He could have been a 4th or 5th round pick. No qualms in PPR, maybe even earlier. So I like Samuel. I definitely would have considered Madison if I was thinking running back. I think he is the top handcuff to own this year. I think he could emerge as the long-term starter in Minnesota over Dalvin Cook just because Cook's injury history, his potential to hold out, and the fact that, they may move on from Cook in the near future and may want to see what Madison can do. And, looked good last year too.
Yeah, he did. So going back to the Samuel pick, and I guess I'll make this point right after I pick because I'm about to be on the clock. Hopefully, Team 5 doesn't take the guy I want. All right, so so he took Evan Ingram. Definitely not taking a tight end there. I just like, especially an injury-prone tight end. Like these tight ends going in the 6th and 7th round, I feel like you can just wait on them. I've harped on that so many times, but I'm going Will Fuller here. But speaking of injury-prone guys, but Will Fuller is now the number 1 receiver in Houston. We've seen him have just explosive games at times, and now like there's not going to be DeAndre Hopkins at all. So Deshaun Watson is going to focus even more on him. I think Fuller, if he can stay healthy, I know it's a big if, and he's my number 4 receiver, so I think it's okay. If he can stay healthy, I think he can have a huge year. Going back to Deebo Samuel, I wanted to drop this nugget and draft him. You took him, but I think it's a great pick. So don't take this as like a guarantee because it's just an emailer, but an emailer sent me an email, and it was a trainer. And he was talking about Deebo Samuel's injury, like, and how it would affect his recovery time. And he said that he would expect Deebo Samuel to be ready week 1, just based on the type of foot fracture it was, or the type of broken foot it was. That may be more optimistic for Deebo Samuel. So, I mean, either way, even if he misses a couple games, like he's going to be strong at the end of the year. But that the trainer's email just gave me just more optimism. So, like, again, like, don't take that as like a guarantee that he's definitely going to be on the field week 1, but that made me feel better about it.
Yeah, no, I definitely could see that being the case because what was broken was his 5th metatarsal, I believe, in his right foot, which was which is basically the lower part of your pinky toe, not the actual pinky toe, but below that. So I could see him coming back from that strong. I would have one worry in that he would try to rush himself back, but if a trainer has said that he should be ready week 1, I'll take that advice and trust it for sure. And I just think in the 7th round, even if he misses 6 weeks or is on the PUP list to start the year and takes time to come back, like you said, he's still going to be stronger in the second half of the year. And I already have Evans, Woods, and Slayton in front of him. So I really like the Samuel's value there and upside, especially in PPR. I also would have considered Will Fuller there if Deebo wasn't on the board. So I like that pick for you. I think anytime I pick a 4th receiver in fantasy, I want someone with the most upside. And I feel like those two guys have a ton of it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Keyshawn Vaughn just went, and Sony Michel. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he stays injured. We'll see. So I think we're going to go with a 5th receiver. It just feels like the best players available are receivers. So let's see here. CeeDee Lamb is someone I've talked about a lot. I think he's going a little too late. He's so talented. He's such a great player. Like he should have. I think he should have been the first receiver taken, or maybe Jerry Jeudy. But it sounded like the Raiders were deciding between Lamb and Henry Ruggs, and they went with Ruggs. But within that offense, given that Amari Cooper has kind of faded down the stretch the past couple of years, maybe CeeDee Lamb takes over as the number 1 receiver, and maybe I'm starting him late in the year as my 2nd receiver along with Michael Thomas. So I just think there's a ton of upside with him, especially in round 8.
Yeah, I think that's another great pick. And your receiver core is just like loaded. Like if this were a real draft, you'd have Thomas, Sutton, Green, Fuller, and Lamb. You'd have plenty of ammunition to get a top running back if you needed one. You could even offload like 2 receivers and still be set. So I think the strategy you've used with Michael Thomas ended up paying off. It may not work as well if there's not a running back on the board in the 3rd round, but I think you've proven that you can be successful taking a receiver in the 1st round. Looks like I'm up again, and I'm devastated because I was going to take James White, and now he's off the board. So I'll do a quick curveball, and I'll take Matt Breida in Miami with a new team. I think he's their most explosive running back. They're going to need to run the ball early in the season. He'll catch the ball out of the backfield, definitely be the pass catcher there. So I think in the 8th round, that's a solid time to get him, but I really wanted James White. So good job, Team S, for ruining my dreams.
So I feel like we've had our dreams ruined in this draft quite often. So do you want to talk about why you wanted James White a lot?
Yeah, so there are. Hold on, I'm on the clock again. So let me make one more pick because I was going to pick Jerry Jeudy and now he's gone. This is a nightmare. This is the worst part of my draft every single time is when people get picked. So I want another receiver. Who do I want? I guess I'm going to go Marvin Jones because he's consistent and I'm running out of time. So there he is.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted James White is you've got a young quarterback who's completely unproven, taking over for Tom Brady. He's going to have to find weapons in this offense because the Patriots inexplicably didn't draft a receiver. So you're looking at N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman, and Mohamed Sanu being his top pass-catching weapons, along with some rookie tight ends. But if you have James White coming out of the backfield, he's going to get a ton of catches and a ton of targets and a ton of looks. And, they may give him a lot of extra looks to make Stidham comfortable. So I could see him having a big year. And I think he's had, I want to say, at least 100 targets back-to-back year, or at least 95 targets in back-to-back years. So I like him a lot from that standpoint.
Yeah, I kind of panicked here. I was going to take Emmanuel Sanders, and then I realized I had Michael Thomas as well, so I was running out of time. So I don't mind Hardman. I don't think I would have made that pick. I was going to look for another running back, but I noticed I had 8 seconds left, so I had to just rush that pick. I'm not a huge fan of it. I wouldn't recommend Mecole Hardman in the 9th round, although he has a ton of upside for sure. And the thinking with Sanders is I think Sanders with Drew Brees should have just a big year. So that Saints offense has been dying for a second receiver for a while. They've had Ted Ginn there. They tried Traquan Smith, just nothing worked out. They wanted to sign Des Bryant, but then he got injured. So I like that. That's why I like Emmanuel Sanders, even as a 6th receiver. I just think there was there's too much value to pass up, I thought. So I think definitely gonna stop drafting receivers at this point though.
Yeah, I would say it's time to stop that. I considered Sanders. I was between him and Marvin Jones, and I only went for Jones because Jones has been proven productive in the Detroit offense. I love Sanders' fit in New Orleans. I firmly expect that he'll succeed there, but I had to make a decision very quickly and didn't want to panic and do something I regret, so I took the safer pick.
Yeah, so what do you think 9th round and then what do you think about the 8th and 9th rounds? I don't think we discussed the other picks that much except for the players we wanted.
Yeah, I'm looking some of the picks. I don't like Hayden Hurst in the 8th round. I think he's set for maybe a breakout year, but I think that's way early to take him. I think there are some other guys on the board of similar ilk and with better proven production that you can target. So not a fan of that one. I like some of the receiver picks. I like Jerry Jeudy in the 9th round. I like CeeDee Lamb. Justin Jefferson went in the 8th round.
Yeah.
That's earlier than I would have thought he would go. But I like most of the receiver picks, and it looks like a lot of the running backs that are coming off the boards are the guys that were in timeshares at this point, which makes perfect sense.
So I put Jefferson on my sleepers list this week. Actually, yesterday I posted the updated fantasy sleepers. I believe he's number 6 on the list, but his ADP is 1401. So to take him in the 8th round I think is early, but then again, if you're in a draft and you love the guy and you're convinced that someone else is going to take him, so I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a player earlier than their ADP for sure. In a fantasy mock draft like this, I think I would not take the guy I want earlier than his ADP because I'd want to see where he drops to, and then maybe have a better idea of where to take him in real life. So that's my thought on it. So hopefully this guy's still available. And I don't, there we go. Nyheim Hines. Frank Reich's been talking about Nyheim Hines catching 10 passes a game. Not a game. He said he said there are going to be games where Nyheim Hines catches 10 passes. So in PPR that interests me a lot. Frank Reich's pretty creative with his offense, and Phillip Rivers, you just went Antonio Gibson. Do you want to
I did, yes.
So real quick to finish, we've seen Phillip Rivers use Austin Eckler a lot. So I think he might use Nyheim Hines the same way. Okay, so you want to go with Gibson?
Yeah, so I went with Gibson because I have Geis, and Gibson's kind of the second best receiving option that they have. So I figured it was time to roll with him. He's one of my big sleepers, especially in PPR. The Washington coaching staff has compared him a little bit to Christian McCaffrey. So that's a comparison that I like to hear. I don't think he's going to be McCaffrey. Oh my God, I wanted Aaron Rodgers next. Oh, okay. That's
Aaron Rodgers in the 11th round. That's seems like way too low.
I know. I should have taken him and waited on my other guy, but I'm going to panic and take a different quarterback. All right, I'm taking Daniel Jones because I have one of his receivers on my team. That's the plan. Okay, let me do it. The lag's a bit much today, but it's we're working through it. But yeah, so Gibson is the other guy who can catch passes on Washington's running back core. J.D. McKissick is there too, but I don't think that he's going to be a big time playmaker at that position.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like Aaron Jones would have been a great pick there. I like Daniel Jones too. So I think I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds. He's not really on my radar, but given that Kenyon Drake has not really had a history of carrying the ball, like shouldering like a big workload, I think there's a chance that Chase Edmonds will start some games this year. And I don't know why there we go. I had to click draft player like 10 times. That's how bad the lag is. I think there's a decent chance Chase Edmonds starts a handful of games, and in that offense, he's going to catch a ton of passes. Remember last year, Chase Edmonds started against the Giants, or maybe he didn't start, but he took over for David Johnson like after the first series. And Chase Edmonds just had a huge game. I think that he could have some big games this year. You know, like people are assuming Kenyon Drake's going to just handle the workload, and I think odds are he probably will, but I wouldn't count out Edmonds either. He looked very good at times this year.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of picking Edmonds because he's a smaller, better pass catching back. So if Kenyon Drake needs to be spelled on the field, I could see him having a third down role. So getting him in the 11th round of a PPR draft makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so rounds 10 and 11 just went. We've seen a ton of defenses. Don't take a defense this early. It's just a big mistake. The defense has changed so much every year. And you can also play matchups. Actually, these picks are rolling in pretty quickly. But I was quick impressions on rounds 10 and 11.
Yeah, I like the Desean Jackson pick in round 10 from LA. I think it's good to have around because Eckler may not handle all the between the carries options there. And I think Emmanuel Sanders went off the board before him. So he lasted a little bit longer than I expected after you went with Hardman instead of him. So I think those were two really good picks. For the most part, though, it's just a bunch of quarterbacks and defenses. I'm wondering if the defenses were lag picks by accident. But overall, the players that were selected that weren't quarterbacks or defenses have upside, and people who took quarterbacks like me were just looking for a quarterback at this point.
Yeah, that's true. I also like the Anthony Miller pick and the Christian Kirk pick. So Kirk is not the number one receiver anymore. He's going to be the number two. You're up. So explain.
Okay. What am I going to do? I am going to take Chris Thompson because Jay Gruden loves him and he should catch passes. And that should be Jacksonville Chris Thompson. But it's listed as San Francisco. So just know that my intentions there were to take Jacksonville Chris Thompson. If there is a San Francisco Chris Thompson, I am unaware of that.
I think there is because I was searching for it and I saw Chris Thompson on the 49ers. I'm like, I thought he was on the Jaguars, but apparently there were two. It's kind of like back in the day. Remember Ricky Williams? There was a Ricky Williams and a Ricky X Williams. You had to make sure you pick the right one. You're up again.
Okay, so I need a tight end at this point, and my guy Austin Hooper's off the board. So I'll go with Jared Cook at this point. I think he's a pretty safe pick. Should be the third target in New Orleans, maybe fourth, depending on how you view Alvin Kamara. So I think he should get some touchdowns for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm up again. I don't have a quarterback, I don't have a tight end, and I don't have a defense. So it's all going according to plan. So I like Jared Goff in week 1. We're talking about playing matchups. He plays Dallas week 1. Dallas is a weak defense. Then he plays the Eagles in week 2. Not as good of a matchup because they added Darius Slay, but they lost Malcolm Jenkins. They have a bad linebacking core. So I think Jared Goff should be able to start. I should be able to start in the first 2 weeks and have good results. Like I think that week 1 game against Dallas, that should be a shootout. It should be like 34-31. So I think Goff could have like 300 yards, 3 touchdowns in that game. So I like him as a flyer late in the draft to draft. Another guy you can take if Jared Goff is off the board is Phillip Rivers because he plays Jacksonville week 1. And the Jaguars no longer have Jalen Ramsey or AJ Bouye. They have a bad secondary. So unless CJ Henderson is just like great right away, I think that's another guy you can target.
Yeah, I like both of those options. And to your point, too, I think the Dallas Rams game, that's a primetime game, right?
Yes, Sunday night.
Yeah, so they're going to want that to be a shootout. So I would imagine that that's why they scheduled it. They're hoping it'll be a shootout. So I can see that happening. I don't like Jared Goff as a quarterback, but early in the season, I think he could be good fantasy-wise.
Yeah, Jared Goff is good if he plays a team that doesn't have a good pass rush. And the Dallas does not. Outside of DeMarcus Lawrence, they don't really have that strong of a pass rush. Robert Quinn's gone. They signed Gerald McCoy, but he's not the player he once was. They signed Dontari Poe, but he's a run stuffer. So Jared Goff should have some time in that game, and he should be able to torch a Dallas secondary that no longer has Byron Jones. Like I said, I think he's going to have a great week 1. Not as great of a week 2, but I still think he can be playable or startable in week 2. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with you in the final 2 picks, though, if you're going to take a defense or a kicker, because there are a lot of kickers coming off the board right now, and you may miss your opportunity if you don't take one now.
Oh, man, I have to maybe make a pick here. Actually, I was going to take Mike Gesicki. I think that's a great pick, even though he has another tight end. I wouldn't draft 2 tight ends. I don't. There's no reason to. Mike Gesicki is going to play in the slot in Miami this year, and that should bode very well for him in Chan Gailey's offense. I talked to Blake Jarwin earlier, so I'm just going to take him. Blake Jarwin is Jason Witten's no longer there. Blake Jarwin, that's his job. He has a job also himself, and I think he can catch 8 to 10 touchdowns this year. So he's someone I would definitely take.
Yeah, I like that pick. I viewed Jarwin as one of the big tight end sleepers this offseason when he was hitting free agency. I didn't know if the Cowboys would retain him, but they did. I think he's poised for a breakout. I'm taking the Colts defense. I know I shouldn't yet, but well, actually, no, because this is only 15 rounds. But they're playing the Jaguars week 1. I want like the 12 points that they're going to get when they play that, and then I can worry about defense after that. But Colts defense is my guy this time right now.
Colts defense might get 30 points week 1, considering how bad the Jaguars are. Yeah, so we're entering in the final round. This is your final pick.
Okay. Normally I would go with a kicker here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to change it up a bit, and I'm going to continue to add to my collection of too many running backs from bad teams and take Raquel Armstead from the Jaguars. On the off chance that Leonard Fournette is traded, now I have Chris Thompson and Raquel Armstead, so I'll have a stranglehold on the Jaguars backfield. Even though I drafted the wrong Chris Thompson, I will not do that in real life.
Yeah, well, hope not. So you said I was not going to get a kicker here, but look who I'm getting. I'm getting Zane Gonzalez. I usually just take a meme kicker, but I think Zane Gonzalez is a meme kicker because of Little Zane, the rapper from the 90s. He was pretty big in Penn State. They used to play. I used to go to these frat parties. This like frat called AKL. And the guy who was in charge of the music there loved Lil Zane, and like he always played Lil Zane at these parties. So I have fond memories of Lil Zane, and that's the reason why I took Zane Gonzalez in the 15th round.
Yeah, that's a fair reason to do it. And if you go beyond that, I believe he was drafted by the Browns and was so terrible that they had to cut him, and now has turned into a solid kicker with the Cardinals. So, he's a classic example of why you don't draft a kicker in real life and just sign one as a free agent.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Both in fantasy and real life, I would not recommend drafting a kicker or a defense in real life unless you have to. And I recall you saying that that you force people to draft kicker and defense in your league, but that's fine. I'm in leagues like that too. Like the commissioner says you have to draft one of each player, and like sometimes I forget intentionally, and then I get yelled at. But that's something I do, and I just say I forgot. But I guess it's the cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is I just need the draft. We have draft boards and we hang them up in my basement so that they look good and they have all the different colors on them. So we need it for that purpose. But like throughout the season, I will usually not have a kicker on my roster until Sunday. So, I'll be that guy during the draft who won't let you go without drafting a kicker. But I'm not going to make you have a kicker on your roster the whole season.
It'd be funny if you like blocked in the person's car because they didn't draft a kicker or defense. Like you can't leave. You literally can't leave this house until you do it. So that'd be funny. That'd be funny if that happened. All right, let's review our teams. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I like my running backs. Getting Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones was a steal late in the second round. I'm kind of bummed I didn't get Barkley, but no complaints about McCaffrey. Beyond that, I like Geis's upside. I think Geis could catch a ton of passes if he stays healthy. So him as a good third running back, that works. And I have Antonio Gibson behind him in case he gets hurt. Matt Breida is a solid backup option. He's nothing flashy. He also has trouble staying healthy. But so I guess I have some concerns with injuries because Chris Thompson gets hurt all the time anyway. But I have enough running back talent to stay alive. I think my receivers are, for the most part, pretty safe. Evans and Woods are safe. Slayton and Samuel are more upside picks based off of their, Slayton's should progress in his second season. Samuel, we don't know what the injury is going to do to him, but, if he's back week one, then I got to steal in the 7th round. And Marvin Jones, just solid 9th round pick. He's a guy you can get in like the 9th or 10th round of any draft, and you will start him. It almost always feels like more often than not. You would start him more than you expect him to. So I like my weapons that I have there. There's some injury concerns at running back. Everything else is solid. I wish I got Aaron Rodgers instead of Daniel Jones. Probably should have taken Rodgers at the end of the 10th. But yeah, I got no complaints about my team. I just got to figure out who I would drop for a kicker when that would eventually happen. But I'd probably drop one of the Jacksonville backs, depending on how the season was going.
Yeah, and someone can always get injured, and that's why you don't draft a kicker or defense unless you have to, because if you have the chance, just get more players with upside, and there's no upside with kicker or defense. So yeah, I like your team a lot for sure. Especially if like Darius Geis stays healthy. He's always a question mark with his health, but that you'll have like 3 great running backs. If that's the case. And I like Matt Breida too. He was someone I was going to draft in the 9th round if I could. Part of the reason why I panicked with Mecole Hardman. but that's I think that for me, that's the one pick I don't like. I like Hardman, just not in the 9th round, maybe in like the 12th round. So I would have gone in a different direction. And like I said, Emmanuel Sanders was on my radar, but I already had Michael Thomas, and I don't want 2 receivers from the same team. So with my team, you mentioned my receivers before. I like the receiving core. Like Michael Thomas makes any receiving core look great. But then Cortland Sutton, I think, is going to have a huge year. AJ Green coming back and playing with a good quarterback for the first time in his career. And then you have Will Fuller taking over as the number 1 receiver. So like Fuller, I'm happy with Fuller as my 3rd receiver, and yet he's my 4th. So I'm pretty thrilled with that. Then my running backs, I don't have like a blue chipper like you do with McCaffrey, but Eckler in a PPR league is pretty close, I think, because he can catch a ton of passes. So I like Eckler in PPR, and then Singletary I think is going to have a strong year in his second season. DeAndre Swift has a ton of upside. Like I said, I think he's going to take the starting job, and he's my favorite running back in the draft. Then after that, I took some flyers with Hines, Edmonds, and Evans. I think there's a decent chance that Edmonds gets some starts, and maybe Evans even gets some starts because of Henry. He had almost 400 touches last year, and then Naeem Hines, like I talked about, he's going to catch a ton of passes. And then quarterback. I have the weakest quarterback and the weakest tight end and the weakest kicker and no defense in this draft. But I don't care because you can just play matchups with all of them, so that's fine. So I'm pretty happy with this team. I was doing an experiment to see if I can get a decent running back core after taking a receiver in the first round, and it turns out that you can. I don't know if that's the case if you draft 11th or 12th. If you go receiver and then go running back after that, it looks like Team 11 went receiver with Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, and two great receivers. But look at his running backs. He has David Johnson, who's just waiting to get injured. James Conner, who might not start by the middle of the year. Philip Lindsay, who is not a starter. Latavius Murray's not a starter. So that just looks problematic. His Team 11's receivers are great, and he has Deshaun Watson. I like Watson, but his running backs just so bad. So I think you have to go running back. I think you have to go 2 running backs early in this draft.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think you have to go 2 in the first 3 rounds. I think is kind of the sweet spot we're settling on. Depending on where you're drafting, you could do 3 in the first 3 rounds. But I think the later you get, the more you have to go back-to-back running backs to start. I think what your team proved, though, is if you're picking in the middle round or the middle of the round and you're kind of not sold on any of those running backs after the top 5 candidates there, you can take a top receiver and still be okay at the running back position. Because if you were drafting 6th or 7th or maybe even 8th, you still would have been able to get 2 good running backs. Maybe that's not the case in standard, but at least in PPR, I think your team's in good enough shape at running back, and you're absolutely loaded at receiver. So again, if this was a real league, you could always dangle some of the receivers to try to get an upgrade at running back if you really needed one. So I think that worked out pretty well for you in the end.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think about Team 10? Because they're another team that went 2 receivers. They took a running back in the second round, but so they went Hopkins and Beckham in the first 3 rounds. But then the rest of the running back core after Miles Sanders is Raheem Mostert, J.K. Dobbins, and A.J. Dillon. And that's it. I think that Mostert has a ton of upside, but we don't know if he's even going to start. And then Dobbins is not a starter yet. He needs Ingram to get hurt. And then Dillon needs 2 running backs to get hurt. So, I think this is another team where, their receiving core looks solid. But the running backs look so bad.
Yeah, and I think you're really banking on Raheem Mostert here, and that's a scary proposition to me because every year we see the Shanahans find some running back that we've not heard of or have only heard of as roster fodder, and they become a star. And that's what happened to Mostert last year. And maybe he can continue that, but what if he gets banged up, or what if he struggles early in the season? Then we're going to see more of Tevin Coleman. We're going to see more of a committee. They also have Jerick McKinnon on the roster, and he signed a big contract a couple of years ago and just hasn't been healthy. So what if he's fully healthy and the Shanahans are finally able to use him in the way that they envisioned? It's just too hard to know with 49ers running backs if they're going to pan out. So I'm a little bit bearish on that team. I love their receivers, but I think without any depth at running back, it's really hard to trust the team.
Yeah, that's definitely true. For all we know, Jeff Wilson Jr. could be the starting running back for the 49ers in the second half of the year. And it's just weird. They always, like you said, the Shanahans always play shenanigans with the running backs. So it's if Mostert's my 3rd running back, I like that a lot. But if he's my 2nd running back, I'm pretty concerned heading into the season. Another team 9, Flo, took receiver in the 2nd and 3rd round. He had to settle with Montgomery as his 2nd running back, and then Ronald Jones, Damian Williams, Tariq Cohen, Justin Jackson. So he has okay depth, but no solid 2nd running back. I don't like Montgomery at all. I think he's just a plotter behind a bad offensive line. So I don't hate this team, but I do hate the running back core, especially Dalvin Cook too.
Yeah, if he had gotten a running back that wasn't Dalvin Cook, I may like this team more. I don't like Montgomery either, but I do like Tariq Cohen in PPR, and I kind of anticipate that one of the Ronald Jones, Damian Williams, Justin Jackson crew will pan out enough. So I feel like they could get by at running back, but I'm just too worried about Dalvin Cook. Personally, if that was me, I probably would have overdrafted Alexander Madison to handcuff Cook. And again, I probably should have drafted Madison in this, considering how big of a fan I am of him. But My advice to Dalvin Cook people, if you're going to draft Dalvin Cook, you got to overdraft a handcuff and Alexander Madison. I never recommend doing that usually, but Madison's talented enough and there are enough concerns with Cook that it could be a worthwhile strategy this year.
My advice to people who draft Dalvin Cook is to not draft Dalvin Cook.
That's probably the better way to do it. That was me trying to be too nice. Yeah, just don't draft Dalvin Cook. Or if you're drafting in my league, please draft Dalvin Cook. I don't want him.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Not in the first round. Like, you get him a little bit later, whether it's good value, go for it, but not in the first round. I don't think you could take him in the first round. So those are the teams that drafted that didn't draft at least two running backs in the first 3 rounds. I'm just scanning through everyone else's running back core. They all look solid. Team 3. We don't know, but if Edwards-Helaire pans out, that looks great. But if not, it's a big question mark. Although you like James White, so in PPR, and I like James White in PPR too. So maybe that's fine. Everyone else's running back core looks good. So yeah, I agree with what you said. 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds this year because Kenny and I went through all the running backs in the league this year, and there are only 14 teams that have running backs who handle most of the workload, which is just crazy. But yeah, it just shows you that you have to draft running backs early. And if you don't, for some reason, if you just can't, then do what Team 9 did, Flo, where you just took a ton of running backs to kind of make up for it.
Yeah, and I want to say before we finish up here, the team with the number 1 pick, Seahawks fan 97. Their draft is pretty good here. Like, I didn't love the Todd Gurley pick at the beginning of the 3rd round, but the running back core of Barkley, Gurley, Kareem Hunt, Madison, Kerryon Johnson, and Jamal Williams is really strong overall. And I feel like they got a ton of upside at receiver too, because Adam Thielen's good in PPR. You're big on DK Metcalf this year, and I like him as well. Julian Edelman should catch a ton of passes in New England, even though he's 34 and his quarterback is really going to be a rookie starter, basically. And then Jeffrey, injury concerns there, but is solid. And Jerry Jeudy, I'm a huge fan of. So I love what they did. I wouldn't have taken 2 tight ends, but I like Austin Hooper and I like Aaron Rodgers in the 11th round was a massive steal. So props to them. It's not as counterintuitive as this sounds. It's not always easy to create a great team with the number 1 overall pick, but they did a good job.
I love Seahawks fans' team. Like you, to add on to what you said, and I agree with everything. Desean Jackson in the 13th round could be a steal. Like, he played 1 game with Carson Wentz last year, and he had a huge performance against the Redskins. So, like, granted, it wasn't the toughest opponent, but Jackson has a ton of upside if he can stay healthy. If he can play 10 or 11 games this year, he'll definitely pay off that 13th round draft pick. So I like that a lot. And Jamal Williams in the 15th round, Aaron Jones goes down, like, he suddenly has borderline running back 1 that he drafted late in the draft. So and then Aaron Rodgers, of course. So yeah, I like what Seahawks fan 97 did for sure. All right, that's about it. Anything else before we sign off?
No, I think I'm good. I'm just glad we're heading towards getting closer to training camp. It's about a month away now.
Yeah, we got news today that the Hall of Fame game is not going to take place, which is pretty predictable. They're going to postpone the ceremony till next year. I imagine that we'll only have 2 preseason games, but it sounds like we're going to be ready to go by mid-August to play preseason games, and then the regular season should just be I think they're going to play the whole regular season, so it'll be good.
Yeah, I hope so. And I'm as much as I like to watch the preseason games occasionally, I'm usually tired of them by the second one. So 2 preseason games sounds all right to me. So long as we can play the season, that's what counts.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So yeah, once again, please hit subscribe. That would help us out a lot. Or hit the like button, hit the notification bell. All those would be great. We'd really appreciate it. Anything to plug?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker. I'm always talking football on there. Also working on some Redskins scouting stuff at rigosrag.com, and keep it here at the walterfootball.com YouTube page. Do definitely subscribe, as Walt said. I'll be coming out with some video content, hopefully highlighting some of the most important players on each team, and not just like the quarterbacks and guys that we all know about, but some of the guys who are really going to define if a team's going to have success this year. So keep an eye out for that. We should have that soon.
Sounds good. Yeah. So on this channel, we're going to have another mock draft next week. So check that out. We have our season previews that we're talking about on walterfootball.com. Also season previews, fantasy football rankings. Charlie's going to have more scouting report previews for the 2021 NFL draft. So check that out. Otherwise, I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.